Fateh Singh Pandar, a retired member of India's border security force, applies for a visa to Canada, but he is rejected. The letter he received from the Canadian visa officer states that the applicant's service in India's army, police, and intelligence units made him complicit in torture and other human rights violations. As outrage grew in India, Canada issued an apology and promised to revisit this and other similar cases. Joining me now in our studios to discuss this further is G.A Easwar, publisher of Desi News, and Chantal Deloge, a lawyer with Green and Spiegel. Thanks for both being here.
Thank you.
Easwar, my first question is to you. How big a deal is this in the community and by extension with Canada-India relations?
There's no other way of putting it. It's a big mess. The reaction in the community and in India has been swift and sharp. The reason is this. Government of Canada, as represented by a visa officer based in Delhi, says that Fateh Singh Pandit is not eligible to come to Canada because of his membership with the border security force. And then, a few days later, there's a lot of noise in Indian media and here. Jason Kenney, Minister for Citizenship and Immigration, he says that I'm sorry, that was a mistake. We should not have said this, and we are giving too much of latitude to Canada's visa officers in the diplomatic force around the world. Now, that's two different ways of looking at the same thing. Thus, the left hand does not know what the right hand is doing, and why would that be? So, within the community, there's a strong reaction because institutions like the Indian Army, institutions like the Border Security Force, these are sacred institutions in India. India is a democratic country, just like Canada. Our values are very shared. They are the same. And in that situation, to say that Fateh Singh Pandar is not eligible for coming to Canada, they're not saying that he personally is not eligible to come, but because of his association with Border Security Force. So the entire defense system within India is now cast, an aspersion has been cast, and he says that they cannot come. But at the same time, Jason Kenney says, no, we are sorry. Now, the feeling is that, okay, India wants to do business with Canada and Canada wants to do business, so they want to keep that part going. So the minister is the public face of the government and he says that, we are very sorry. But at the same time, the visa officers behaving the way they do has not stopped. There has been a case of a lieutenant colonel, highly decorated lieutenant colonel of the Indian Army, has been denied visa to come to Canada. There has been a case of a colonel, 10 years since he's been retired, wants to visit his family in Toronto, not allowed to come here. An intelligence officer with IB, or Intelligence Bureau in India, he has not been allowed to come to Canada. So there's been a lot of such cases. So people are saying that, see, as it is, people in the community, many of them have had the experience of their near and dear ones, friends and family, having been denied visa to come to Canada. Thinking, if these bigwigs in India also cannot come to Canada, is there a concerted effort on the part of the government to deny visa systematically? So I don't think Jason Kenney's apology was enough. In fact, it only confuses the situation and adds more to it.
So, Chantal, moving from the politics to the legality of, maybe you can clear out some of the confusion. What does the law say? What does the law say about someone's service in the military or intelligence? How is that law applied? Is there a set criteria, or is this more of an arbitrary process? It's up to one visa officer, especially in South Asia, offices like Colombo, Delhi, Islamabad. Break it down for us.
Well, the same law applies to everyone. The law says that if you're a senior official with a government that has committed or is committing serious, gross, systematic human rights violations, then you're inadmissible to Canada. Okay, so that same law will apply to everyone. The issue arises when that interpretation of that law to the facts of your situation is resting with an individual visa officer who has the discretion to interpret that according to their opinion. So a same case that goes in front of one visa officer, they may think there are human rights violations, another visa officer may decide differently. So I don't think the problem is with the law. It's not even with the setup. It's just that the way our law is administered, we give that discretion to visa officers. And once that discretion is given to the visa officers, really it's not for people at the top to control what the decision is at the bottom. The people at the bottom have the discretion to make that determination.
And you deal with, hundreds of cases, and so you have so many clients in South Asia. Have you seen this law being applied more stringently lately, or do you think it's just been that way for a while? Or we seem to be hearing more about such cases now?
I think it's just that we're hearing more about it lately, and I think as time goes on and there's more and more conflict in the world and governments come and governments go, you get a buildup of this type of people that have this sort of military history. For example, a lot of the Iraqis right now are having the same issue as well.
And other than moving out of this case, we seem to be changing immigration refugee law a lot. This week we've heard about refugee law. Before we heard skilled workers. You mentioned before the interview the category for skilled workers may be changing again. Are we being fair to applicants? Are we moving in the right direction, or are we leaving a lot of applicants in the lurch about what's going on with Canada, and are we losing out then to get the best immigrants?
I think there are two sides to this. If you see it from the Canadian point of view, it's that we want to get the best of the immigrants from around the world, and we want to get them on our terms. But if you see it from the applicant's point of view, who is wanting to come to Canada, he or she would feel, no, it's not fair. So it's basically a question of from which side you see it and which where you sit. And I think that they're both necessary. Canada is operating in a fast-changing world. The global environment is changing by the day. So we have to tighten our rules as we go along. But that said, what's happening with the case of the soldiers and army officers and defense personnel from India, that is not being explained very well. And I think it is incumbent on the part of the government of Canada to come out clean and say, this is what is happening, this is what is doing. Because one of the questions that I have encountered in the community is that the defense forces in India do not operate on their own like in some countries. They are not a law unto themselves. They eventually finally answer to their political masters. If you can stop a BSF soldier, head constable from coming to Canada because of his association with his armed forces, would you really stop his political master also from coming here, like the Minister of Defense, the Prime Minister of India, who is going to come here for G20? Those are the very tricky questions that are being asked out there, and people are really looking for answers, and those answers have not been forthcoming.
Chantal, you deal with both sides. You deal with the immigration department, and you deal with so many applicants on a daily basis. What do you have to say about these changes, this case, and the wider changes we're seeing in immigration? Are we moving in the right direction?
Well, I think you maybe asked the wrong question. The question is not, is it fair to applicants? The question really from the department's point of view is our immigration program servicing the needs of Canadians? Okay, because that policy is there not for the benefit of the entire world, but for the benefit of our country. Mm-hmm. So if we need to change that system rapidly to adapt to changing labor market conditions or other political issues, then we should maintain the control to be able to do that.
Easwar, Chantal, thank you so much for being here. You both had some really good things to say. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And do stay with us here in Omni News South.